Are you prepared to survive if the economy collapses tomorrow? Hi, I'm Jonathan.
And Kylene Jones, and we are the Provident Preppers.
In this video, we are going to talk about a report that came out from the BBC addressing the issues going on in Venezuela. I was quite frankly appalled at the kinds of things that are happening there and the disruption to their country. And it got us wondering if we were ready for a similar event to happen in our country.
So after some study and evaluation, we've looked at things that we need to do differently to make sure that we are prepared for an economic collapse, and we're going to share them with you. But first, let's review some of the important things that we learned from this report. So you can review this report yourself. It's by the BBC News, and you can just Google BBC News Venezuela, all you need to know about the crisis in 9 charts. And some of the important things that we looked at is that the inflation is absolutely ridiculous. It is out of control. If you look according to this chart, estimated for 2018, we're looking at an inflation rate of 1,300,000%. So by the end of last year, prices were doubling every 19 days on average. This left many Venezuelans struggling to afford basic items such as food and toiletry. Can you imagine if you had a loaf of bread and every 19 days that loaf of bread was doubling in price? Pretty soon you wouldn't be able to eat. But this was very interesting to me. Number 3 says people don't have enough food. Venezuelans are going hungry. Of those questioned for the country's annual living conditions survey, 8 out of 10 said they were eating less because they did not have enough food at home. 6 out of 10 said that they had gone to bed hungry because they did not have money to buy food. Their key findings of the study said that traditional meals were decreasing in size and quality. 9 out of 10 people couldn't afford their daily food. 8.2 million people had 2 meals a day or fewer, and sources of iron, vitamins, and other nutrients were lacking from people's diet. And they talked about how the people were more and more depending on charity and public assistance in order to be able to just eat food. We can't control the choices that our government makes. These people are victims of a corrupt government and of challenges that were beyond their control. But what things can we do? We're going to talk about that next.
Although you may not be able to change what's happening in your country, you can reduce the potential impact to your family by doing a few important things. We hope that you'll look at the post 12 ways to prepare to survive an economic collapse. There's a lot of good information in there, and this will be part of the show notes as well, so please take a look.
The people in Venezuela are going hungry. 80% are forced to eat less. 60% have gone to bed hungry. 64.3% have lost an average of 25 pounds. The economic collapse has created hyperinflation, and prices are doubling on average every 19 days. It doesn't take very long at that rate to no longer be able to afford to buy a loaf of bread or to feed your family. So this is what we're going to look at. We are going to look at things that we can do so that if it happens in our country, we will be able to take care of our family regardless of the crazy economic nightmare that is going on around us.
Critically important is to store basic food and necessities. Obviously, food is critically important, but also the other things that we need for life. Soap, shampoo, all these kinds of things that we use every day, having those in storage buffers your family against some of the events that will happen.
So, the first thing that we recommend is that you have a long-term food supply, enough to feed your family for a year or two of basic supplies such as wheat, rice, beans, oats, the very, very basic foods. Those foods will last for 25 to 30 years if stored appropriately, so you can buy them once as an insurance policy and just put them away in a cool, dry location, and they will be good when you need them. The second thing that we recommend is that you have a 3 to 6 month supply of foods that you eat every day. Things, the canned foods, the packaged dinners, all the things that you need to make your meals, and that will help so that your diet is not quite as interrupted when something really bad happens. You need to have sanitation supplies. Stock up on that toilet paper, because if the price of toilet paper doubles every 19 days, pretty soon you're not going to be using toilet paper anymore. And other basic necessities. Do you have the over-the-counter medications? Perhaps you need to talk with your doctor and stock up on some medications, prescription medications that you need for a chronic illness. Really carefully consider what things you need to stock so that you don't have to go to the store.
Growing your own food is an important part of this process. If you have good, healthy food to eat that you can grow on your own property, you've taken care of your family and probably have sufficient that you can help others who may be in need.
And by growing your own food, you're able to supplement that long-term storage that you have and make it last longer and increase the nutritional content of it. One of the easiest ways to grow your own food is to just incorporate fruit-bearing perennials in with your regular landscape. It's amazing how much fruit one apple tree can produce, and it can be a beautiful asset in your yard. But think about this. Think about planting plants that can feed your family right in with your regular landscape.
Prepare to live without electricity. Hopefully you won't have to do that, but there is a possibility that you will, either because power plants aren't functioning, there's not sufficient energy out on the grid, or because the power is there but you don't have the money to be able to afford it.
And that's one of the things that can happen in an economic crisis, is you will just have to do without. So be prepared to lessen that impact on you and your family.
Learn some basic skills. Everything from the gardening that we've talked about, to home repair, to auto mechanics. Whatever you have a skill to do or a skill that you would like to learn can become very beneficial to help your family, to share with others, and as a way of bartering or selling those skills to others for cash.
Build relationships. Now, this is something that a lot of times we are lacking in. It is important to build a network of relationships with neighbors or like-minded people so that in times of crisis, you are not alone. Learn to barter now as you build these relationships. Share with neighbors and friends. Maybe you fix their faucet and they watch your kids while you go to the doctor, or anything that you can do to help build that relationship of trust and that network. So when hard times come, somebody's got your back.
Debt becomes a huge burden, not just in an everyday sense, but in a crisis situation, it can be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Avoid debt and get out of debt to the best of your ability. And build up some financial reserves. Having some cash at home or easily accessible at a financial institution is really, really important.
It's a really good idea to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. Having that reserve is a way of buying yourself some time to fix whatever needs to be fixed so that you can continue to operate.
You may want to invest in some precious metals. This is something that's very individual, and it's certainly not your highest priority. Other things come much before this, but if you have sufficient resources, you have the emergency fund put together, you have your food and other supplies, precious metals may be a way that you can hedge inflation, and also they act as potentially a source of barter or exchange in the event that currency disappears.
But remember, you can't eat precious metals, so don't invest in them until after you already have your food storage. So 3 million people fled Venezuela due to lack of medical care, hunger, increased unemployment, and violent crime. It's interesting to note that violent crime is one of the reasons that they listed for leaving. So it's important that you keep a current passport. If you need to leave, you need to be ready to legally leave, because at that time, the government will not be issuing passports. So take care of it now. Make sure that you keep it updated. One of the problems in Venezuela is gun control. So regular citizens do not have firearms to be able to protect themselves, and it has created a nightmare. And there is an amazing amount of violent crime. So in preparing for an economic collapse, it's really important that you secure your home. Think about what you can do to make it less appealing and more difficult for any uninvited visitors to get into your home.
Consider acquiring some self-defense skills. These skills provide you the ability and the confidence to take care of yourself in a crisis situation. These skills are valuable every day and also will be very valuable in the event that something bad happens. The people in Venezuela have no ability to take care of themselves. They are not allowed to have firearms. So these kinds of skills are very important when it comes to taking care of your family.
And the final thing we want to talk about is make sure that you are prepared to share. We have no idea how an economic collapse will really look for you personally. You may lose absolutely everything, regardless of everything that you have done to prepare. And you may need some person to bless your life and help you to be able to make it through. It could be your child who lives 200 miles away that needs help, or your grandchild. We all need to be prepared to share and help each other get through these really tough times.
We're all in this together. We're not prepared unless we're all prepared. We all need to help each other. This is about helping and sharing and caring and making sure that we lift burdens where we can.
The first priority is that you take care of you and your family. But it doesn't stop there. You need to make sure that you are a good part of your community too.
Google the Provident Prepper, long-term food storage, creative solutions to build a critical asset. Also, how to create a survival food forest in your own backyard. A 3-month supply of food, Amazing Peace of Mind, is another great piece of information. The Provident Prepper, 12 ways to prepare to survive an economic collapse. Again, these are in our show notes. We hope that you will take a look at those. There's a wealth of information. I would guess that you have found this information as startling as we found it to be. And what a tragedy is occurring there. I hope that you have motivation and a little more education now to prepare you and your family to take care of yourselves in the event that something like this happens in our country.
And don't let the information that we presented overwhelm you. Take it a piece at a time. Everything that you can do to be a little bit more prepared for an economic collapse will make it that much easier for you and your family to survive.
And now for the questions of the day. Have you ever lived through an experience with hyperinflation? And what can you teach us so that we can all prepare ourselves better for such an event?
And thanks for being part of the solution.